Recording secretary tonight, Sari Boudreau, Robert Dugan, Ed Van Kuren, TJ Hurry, who's vice chair, and Jerry Patamas, who's an associate member of the board. And the second thing I want to ask you all is please silence your phones so they don't make noise during the hearings. And with that, I think we can begin with the Bad Martha Brewery LLC presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Foreman, members of the board.
Yeah.
For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney here in Falmouth with Ahmed Clower Law Firm. I don't have much in the way of a presentation this evening because I think we're presented to you everything that's been asked for. The only new information we have is that the planning board did vote to approve the site plan review. That decision was provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals yesterday upon its issuance. I believe that was the only outstanding information anyone had been waiting on. So I'd be happy to address any questions that might have come up in the past week, but other than that, I have nothing further to add.
Okay, were there any changes as a result of the site plan review?
No, sir.
Okay. The board have any additional questions for Kevin at this time?
No, just have they worked out the easement agreement yet, or is that still in?
I mean, there's nothing formal in writing yet, but obviously we can't do anything on that property until we have a formal easement.
Sure.
So I don't think your approval changes that.
If the board approves it, they can condition a
on
copy
that.
of the easement prior to either the final building inspection or prior to issuance of a building permit, whichever the board sees fit, because it's important to have a copy of that to know how long that lease is going to be.
I think realistically, prior to the building permit, honestly makes the most sense because we're not going to start doing construction until we have that.
Okay.
Okay, anything at this end?
Just for the record, Attorney Clower, the planning board site plan review was received and it was favorable with just some minor changes.
I don't even believe there are any real changes.
Okay.
No question.
Okay. Any further comments in the public or questions about this project? Okay, if there aren't any, then we could certainly entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so that's Ed and Robert. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Excuse
and
me, did anybody note that there's only 4 members sitting on this? Mr. Murphy is absent.
Okay,
Kim Beelen was not here, and neither was Mr. Patamas.
right. So, okay, so Paul Murphy is absent. So 4 members, are you okay with that?
Unless you have some startling information that hasn't been discussed at all.
I think we actually just touched on this at the last
So
meeting.
we did. So unless anyone has had a dramatic change of heart in the past week or so, I'm comfortable moving forward.
Yeah, at the previous hearing, he stated he was comfortable with
That's
the
right.
4.
In other words, if
I
everybody
recall.
votes yes.
Speak now, or I'm going to be very sorry I said yes.
Okay, so I guess we're ready to take a motion. My sense is the board would like to approve the project. Do you have anything to add, Sheree?
No.
Okay.
If you're fine with it the way it is, or if you want to draft, it's up to you.
Well, we could, it's a little bit more complicated than usual. Would you recommend that we ask for a draft?
You're putting me on the spot?
Well, what would the board's pleasure be? I think it's always, on a
It's good to have a
more
draft.
detailed
I
motion.
think we could also
I'd go for a
guide her
draft.
with a few.
Right,
So then your motion would be not to approve, but to direct
to
me to
direct
draft?
you to
Write a positive.
write a draft
position.
of a approval that we would vote on at the next meeting.
Which is June 7th.
Okay. And then we could make some findings and so forth tonight, could we?
Yes, you could.
Okay, so why don't we entertain a motion to that effect?
I will move to direct the zoning administrator to draft a favorable decision for application 21-18, and I guess we'll give her some guidance on that.
Okay,
Second it.
okay. Let's start with some findings.
There is one nonconformity present on the site. It's the 25.9 setback in the front, I believe, where 35 feet's required. The existing nonconformity is going to remain. Other than that, no new nonconformities will be created. Lot coverage is fine as well.
Yeah, I think lot coverage is going to improve.
It will improve slightly, I think. But for the special permits on the property use is by right, 240-216. I believe there should be some language about the paper road, Audubon Circle, with the parking, and there's also that agreement with Mahoney's for shared access east of the curb cut. And I might have some old seating numbers here, but Oysters 2 seating along with the brewery, and then the spaces involved with that.
All right, so
That was
I'll fill that in.
94.
Right. I think my numbers here might be old.
No, I think it's 194 and
94 is right.
94, something like that.
Okay.
Or 174 and 94. I'll look it up, I'll get it. That's
Sure.
all right. That's all right, Kevin. It's on the plan.
The two-bedroom dwelling in the rear will remain. We should note the
There was
plan.
going to be some dedicated parking for that, as I recall.
I think there was.
Through
Do we need to say
signage.
that it's allowed for habitable space now? Since in that
I'll make a
other,
finding that the board found that it existed prior to Bob purchasing the property, if that's
That
okay
what
with you.
existed, the single
the-
family.
Yes, because in the previous permit, the variance, it was for storage only, as was the kitchen.
Okay.
So I'll make that finding.
And also, I think in the discussion, the applicant agreed that they would dedicate a couple, space or two.
Right, it's up there in the corner.
We should make note of the planning board site plan review.
Just that we received it,
We
correct?
received it.
Do you
Yep.
want to adopt that into it?
I think we should.
Yes.
yeah,
We'll be waiting on the easement. Should we include anything about the landscaping?
Yes.
Sounds good.
I think, too, we had discussed the possibility of them seeking an agreement from Mahoney's to move the island, I guess you would call it, the...
End cap?
Yes,
Yeah.
that demarks the end of the parking field in Mahoney's, if they can get permission to do that, so that the shared parking is incorporated into it.
Any other findings we should include? Or
It'll enhance the use of the site.
certainly will.
And what about the final landscape plan with the, they were trying to get Mahoney's, you're fine with that 3-foot berm, the plantings there?
Yes, that part is great.
To incorporate it,
I would
okay.
have loved to have seen more detail, but
Maybe we can receive a copy of that?
You can have a condition to submit a final landscape plan prior to occupancy.
I like that.
That would be a condition.
You know, we had also discussed trying to preserve a few of the larger cedars that were on the site.
That'll be a finding.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else anyone can think of?
I think that's a good start for Suri.
Okay. Are you happy, Suri?
I'm always happy.
Really?
yeah.
I haven't noted. Oh,
Make that note.
Motion to adjourn.
see what I mean? Okay.
That would make her happy.
Okay, and then,
Okay.
I may add
And
to
then
it as I go through,
conditions-
if that's okay with you
Conditions,
guys.
we're thinking certainly as per plan, right?
Right. Final landscape plan prior to occupancy, final easement
Easement
agreement
prior
prior
to
to
Number of parking spaces.
building permit.
Et cetera.
Anything else?
I think there was a light, was there a lighting plan? There was something.
What?
Was there lighting?
I don't think it was finalized yet, but it will be on the landscape plan.
There was one submitted last week in that filing by Tom on the 16th.
I don't think they had the exact lumens and different things like that, but
Right.
that'll be incorporated, right?
Okay. So that would, I guess, go with the final landscape plan. All right? So this is,
that's
we're
lighting.
instructing Sri to draft this motion, so I think at this point, are we ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
And aye.
So that was a 4-0 vote as well.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll see you on the 7th for the last bit of this.
I'll send you a copy of the draft, of course.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and with that, Kim has arrived, so I can turn the meeting back over, because I'm not on 005-18, turn it back over to TJ, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so now we're opening application 5-18, T-Ticket Car Wash, 187 T-Ticket Highway.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Acting Chair, members of the board. Again, for the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth. There is correspondence in your file. We have requested a continuation on this hearing. We're still in the process of tweaking the plans and reacting to the board's comments and concerns from our last hearing. I understand from speaking with Ms. Boudreau that the next available hearing is July 12th, so we've requested continuance until such time.
Okay, and is the reason for the continuation because of our quorum?
It's a factor, but the predominant factor is the fact that we don't have the revised plans yet.
And the revised plans, what were you envisioning that would be?
Well, there were some
Incorporated.
changes to the building, the location of the building, the traffic flow, the landscaping on the southern edge of the building. We were doing some research into noise calculations. So we were seeking to address the concerns raised both by the board and by the public that was here to speak at the last hearing. We don't have those revised plans from the engineer yet and have not submitted them to the file, obviously. So I don't think it would be appropriate to move forward with the hearing this evening.
And the 4 members that are sitting on this, how would you feel about a continuation?
I would be in favor of continuation. I would just request that be at 6:30 because obviously I'm having trouble getting here at 6. So to July 12th at 6:30, if everybody's fine with that as well.
Okay with me.
See, you're not always happy.
So are we already scheduled for 6 o'clock on July 12th?
No, we're scheduled for 6:30 with the Climate Foundation.
Okay,
It's going to be a long night.
all right. Who else is left on this? Bob,
I mean, I guess it
any opinion?
pertains to the plans, but do you have any idea what the revisions were regarding traffic flow
Well,
or?
we're trying to address, part of it was your concern specifically, Mr. Dugan. It was trying to line up the building more so with the center point of the entryway, trying to relocate the entryway a bit further south, trying to move the building a little bit further north in order to make them align more, because I know that was a concern that you had expressed. And then I know Ms. Beelan had made some comments about the landscaping on the southern edge of the building, so that was southern edge of the property. That was a portion of what we were trying to do. Ms. Valiella had expressed that they felt they didn't need landscaping on the eastern edge, so we were trying to address that. So there were a few changes that are being made, and trying to, in response to Ms. Beelan's other concern, trying to bring down the lot coverage a little bit more. So there's a number of changes that are being massaged into the plan, I guess.
Could I ask an informal question?
Not if it's relative to what he's trying to do. I mean,
Not
because
if-
he's requesting a continuation.
No, I was just wondering if the continuation will be before or after any meeting with the selectmen.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, Okay, so we've heard from the applicant for the rationale behind the continuance. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I mean, I would just follow up. I know that there's some questions, but I do think that we requested additional information. We said, I think, a few of us said we wouldn't vote in favor of it as it was presented. So I do think it makes sense to allow them to present their additional changes. So if you guys want to do 6, I will do my best. I'll be running in, but I will do my best. If that's,
We won't,
Do
we won't risk it.
6:15.
So it's already scheduled for
It's a
6:30
little tough,
anyway.
especially this time of year.
Kim, why don't you make the motion for 6:30?
Okay, thank you, TJ. I will move that we continue application 5-18 to July 12th, 2018 at 6:30 PM here in Town Hall.
Second.
Motion is made by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See
Thank
you on
you.
July 12th.
Thank you very much.
Okay. At this point, we could take
It's
a
given.
recess, or I guess we could
We could go into open meeting.
go into
I
the
have to
open meeting.
Talk
but-
with Frank
Right,
Duffy
those are the
about
two
that,
options. So what would the board like
Because
to
he
do?
gave testimony without Paul
I
being
had
here.
that thought.
Go into open meeting?
Sure.
Okay. We need a motion, I guess.
I will move to take the open meeting agenda items out of order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, Carl Johnson, I sent copies of the draft decision that you requested, directed me to draft. I took into consideration all the findings, I reviewed the previous conditions. Some were taken out, some I expanded on, but I believe I got the gist of what all you were saying, and I haven't heard back, so I'm assuming it's good.
Yep.
If anybody wants to review it now, go over anything.
No, I didn't find anything.
Dependent.
Anyone?
So it was basically restating the existing conditions in the special permit, but then changing the ones that we had discussed during the last meeting. Okay.
And I brought up a condition, no cleaning, no other business on site.
Yep.
Uh,
You mentioned the 3 trailers and the 3
Yes,
trucks rather than, and
they
no,
took the van's been eliminated, the
Right.
other business has been
the
eliminated.
hours of operation were set to 7 to 7.
Including repair of equipment within that timeframe.
So I thought you did everything we asked.
Yeah, and that reads well, too. The landscaping.
So we could take a motion to approve this draft?
I will have to change, it will be 4-0 because Mr. Murphy is absent. So I will have to make that adjustment under the hearing.
I guess maybe we should ask if anyone has any,
The hearing's closed. Oh, you mean the board,
I
yes.
went through it, and I don't have any problem.
if anyone has any issues
I
before
think
we vote,
it's fine
right?
as drafted with that minor exception that Sari just made.
Okay,
I will move that we approve,
Oh, excuse me, yeah, the hearing's closed, so you can't have an alternate sit, so, sorry.
okay. I will move that we approve the special permit modification number 2518, as drafted with the exception that it will be, we presume, 4. So that's my motion.
I'll second.
okay.
You too with it.
Yep, so I think that's Kim and TJ by a hair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, that takes care of Mr. Johnson and his continuing business.
So,
Next item,
I'm sorry, 1 second. TJ, Are you still available at like 7:30 in the morning?
I can be.
Okay, I'll contact you when I'm done with this. It'll probably be Tuesday morning.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Next item in the open meeting is the administrative review of 001-16 Smith, 30 Martin Road. General Contractor's Office Storage. What's going on there?
This was supposed to be reviewed, and I asked for an extension because he still wasn't on the property. The property's still not totally habitated, if you will. I took pictures. There are some boats in the backyard. He has repaired some windows, different things like that, but it doesn't appear to be active at this point. So I'm assuming the board would want to extend this maybe another 6 months. I did speak with him a couple weeks ago, and he said he's slowly getting in there.
Okay, is he requesting 6 months, or is that your?
No, this is the board's request for administrative review of this property and the special permit, and it's not active yet, basically.
So when did we issue the special permit? Back in 2016?
Yes,
Okay, so it's still subject, that's the 2-year.
right.
Okay.
You asked for an administrative review of 1 year, and I asked to extend it for 3 months, based on my conversation with him, and I'm asking for it again. The permit has been filed with the Registry of Deeds, and he is working on the site, trying to fix up the building,
But the use has.
but it doesn't appear that it's active as the operation.
I think a several month or, 6-month extension, whatever we would request is probably appropriate.
Okay, and there haven't been any complaints or anything from any of the butters?
No,
Okay,
just in a butter who's very interested to hear the review, but again, it's not active, so this would be an extension.
okay. So
That's okay with the board?
we have, yeah, so I guess we have a motion from Kim to extend for 6 months,
Second?
seconded by Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
And aye. Okay, so we're done with that. Then we have a board discussion on Megansett Crossing and the expiration of the comprehensive permit, and a letter from Mr. Galasso to.
Right, Mr. Galasso wrote the board a letter. I have not heard back from Frank Duffy to date. There were several emails between me and Mr. Galasso. This has been an ongoing permit for quite a number of years, first by Cubby as Holly Park Condominiums. Mr. Galasso purchased it under Tri-Resource, and then we changed that to Mike Galasso, Megansett Crossing. He has asked for a couple extensions. What Mr. Galasso is getting me on is a technicality with an error of the decision of 17-16M, where the board approved. I sent this copy to you along with all the emails between Mr. Galasso and myself. And you guys did that. And number 12,
The original.
it should, yeah, the template says 3 years, which, if you go through the or the comprehensive permit that you approved and the requests for waivers that have been filed, he has since asked for a couple of extensions. He knew it was going to expire, but he's counting on the technicality that I messed up on condition 12 and left in 3 years.
And so you.
So Peter, I talked to Peter Freeman. He's not representing Mr. Galasso in this, but he did help him write the letter. I did send it to Frank Duffy. He's aware of the situation. I sent him all the emails as well.
But we don't have a ruling from him.
No.
Opinion. Do we anticipate that he'll provide
don't
an
know.
opinion? If the board requested an opinion specifically?
The board did request an
Okay.
opinion through me.
Yeah. I think it's appropriate, probably, to see if we can, when was the opinion requested from town council?
The minute that the first
Yeah.
email when Mr. Galasso contacted me the day after it expired, or 2 days after it expired. And he said that he was going to contact an attorney, that he would get back to me. I contacted him twice. regarding Peter's draft. The minute I got Peter's draft, I sent it to Frank Duffy. In the meantime, I had spoken to him verbally.
So when is that in April, sorry, or at the beginning of
It
May?
was April. We didn't receive the letter until May 9th, I believe. The permit expired April 15th.
Did you say,
I mean, I don't know, without an attorney chiming in, whether we're obligated now or not.
what would happen if the attorney, if he remains moot, doesn't chime in?
Well,
I mean, we've
Forcing our hand to make a
requested
decision.
Would,
town council's opinion. I think we could follow up and, request again. I think this is an interesting legal issue, I mean, really, because the decision says one thing, but the applicant obviously understood to me another, took steps in the past, prior conduct, so it's an interesting issue, and I think it would be prudent of us, at least, to...
so took steps
see-
after 2 years to seek further...
To seek further extensions, based
extension,
upon the understanding...
Which implies that...
Right.
And then later realized that it's...
Right.
Yes,
He got 2
exactly.
waivers after that decision.
Yes, and you wouldn't be seeking those if you, but the
Right.
condition says what it says, so it's...
And that's, I discussed that with Mr. Glasso through an email that you've all seen, where I
Yep,
said you
no,
and I
we
both
saw it.
know.
We saw it, but it didn't help me resolve the issue in my mind, because I just don't know what the legal...
Well, we can bring this back and
requirements
I can
are.
bug, I know Frank's busy with some other issues that this board and another board has.
I think
So I can bug him again. I did email the whole thing.
I would say just maybe once more, see if we can't say, we discussed this, we really think we need your opinion to make a determination.
You think we can get an opinion out of him in the next 2 weeks?
I don't know, Ed. I don't know. He's got the information. He knows that I've asked for the opinion. Time probably got away from him. Time got
So,
away
Sheree,
from
if
me
we-
in the last couple of days to where I didn't, remind him.
If we end up not granting this, then does that mean this whole thing has lapsed?
In my opinion, it has lapsed, but it's up to the board.
Right, but
He
that's-
has the option to take it to the Housing Appeals Committee.
So
I
that's
do
an
believe-
interesting question too, because if it has lapsed, and we say, we're going to sua sponte, we're gonna say of our own accord that it's not lapsed, we're gonna treat it as if it's not lapsed, does that change the underlying reality that it's lapsed? I think that's an interesting question too.
But if it's lapsed, then is there, can he not come back and just
Oh, sure, he
refile
can come back.
another
He can come back, and from what I
comprehensive permit?
understand, he may be coming back for a modification anyway, which I don't understand why he just doesn't reapply, but that's neither here nor there. I don't have a firm answer on that, because I don't know if he, from everything that I've heard, but Mr. Glasso has not said that.
Just
I will say, I mean, this project was approved before I was on the board. I've been on 4 years now. We spent substantial amount of time approving it, modifying it, site visits. I think it's a good project as we've approved it, but this fact that this is going on and on and on, an extension after extension, it's kind of frustrating at this point,
Been going on for more than 10 years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
go back
but
to-
not
But-
under
but
Mr.
there's-
Galasso's
No,
guidance.
but under the
But it's up
previous-
to the board. I mean, if you have a reasonable thing to extend, which you did, and you did, on behalf of the 40B and on behalf of the town, that was reasonable. What's not reasonable is it lapsed, there's an error in the decision that we all reviewed, that I made. So I think if you want to, we should just wait for town council. In the meantime, I'll contact CAC and see if there's an opinion out there somewhere, a decision that, for an instance like this, that would make the board feel more comfortable either way,
I think we should do
That
that.
would be great.
okay?
Okay.
So we
I
can
think
bring this
re-
back?
Just make a quick comment, I
Very
don't want to
quick,
debate
please.
the facts, but this isn't an attempt to get someone.
This is an attempt just to keep a project going. We're at the point where we're putting together the financing. We made applications to the state for funding in this last round. We're so close to get this project started. This is not an attempt to, we all make mistakes. I make mistakes, we all make mistakes. So this is an attempt to get the board. We're just trying to keep a project alive and get it built, and I think that ought to be what we should focus on.
All right, well, we're going to wait and see if we can get some legal opinion that protects everyone.
Exactly, that's what it's all about, is
Yeah.
protection.
And we're not planning on modifying the project. We're going to build the one that you approved.
Okay.
And we're gonna finish it. Thank you.
So do you want to bring it back in the open meeting on, what did I say, June 7th? That's the next hearing.
Yes.
I'll see what I can, oh. That is at 6 o'clock, Kimberly.
I'm not here that day anyways.
Oh, that's right, you're not.
But you
I'm becoming
said
an
you weren't.
absentee board member.
But you weren't on this anyway, right? Or were you?
Yes, she
Yeah, I was,
was.
yeah.
She's been on. She wasn't on the
But that's
original
like
one in
trouble.
Oh, on the one back when
2008.
Cubby
Yeah.
did.
Right, yeah.
I don't think I was.
So that is, but the open, you won't be there that night, so,
No, but you
21st?
can, I mean, you can discuss that, certainly.
yeah, because we have a quorum, other than Dodge. You are on Helmus.
Mm-hmm, yeah, we talked about that. Maybe they won't proceed without a quorum.
Mr. Dugan was present.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe Jerry may have been as well.
Which one?
I don't think Jerry was here for the last
Helmus.
one, but anyway. that
No, I
doesn't
missed
matter.
one on Helmus, I
Yeah.
think.
So we will have a quorum if everybody else, okay. Do you want to do that then? I'll bug Mr. Duffy and I'll contact
So what's the
Jack.
date?
June 7th.
June 7th.
June 7th. And you're not on Bad Martha, so it doesn't matter. Okay. All
All I need is a consensus that you agree, you don't need a vote.
right.
Sounds
Do we
good.
generally agree?
Yes.
Great.
Consensus.
Okay.
Thank
So there
you.
is such a consensus. Then we
you.
are, let's see. It's past
These other
6:30.
hearings
We should have
noticed for
opened the hearings at
6:30?
6:30.
Sorry, past 6:30, time got away. So let's
Do we need a motion?
Move back in, yes.
move back into the normal meeting.
I'll make the motion to move back into our normal meeting and open up the hearing scheduled for 6:30.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then our first hearing tonight is one that should be familiar to many of us.
Being all persons.
And that-
Oh, excuse me.
That is 032-18 Bulgarian 335 Quaker Road, North Falmouth.
I apologize.
Special permit to allow seasonal parking for a fee.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Kenneth R. Dilgarian of Providence, Rhode Island, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-160A of the Code of Falmouth to allow seasonal parking summer months for a fee on subject property known as 335 Quaker Road, North Falmouth, Massachusetts. For referrals. No. Health, leaching is H20 and rated for vehicular traffic as represented on plan. Septic tank is H10, so vehicles should not park on top of the tank. Engineering had its standard comment. Planning had no comment. Fire department had no comment. Water said not applicable. Assessors had no comment. And that's
Okay,
it.
I'm
there's no
here for the applicant.
Good evening, Christopher Leverhurst for the applicant. With me tonight is Harry Dilgarian, the applicant's son, who in the last 2 or 3 years has, I think, basically made the pitch himself. Harry reminded me that this is our 10th year now, I believe, coming in and asking for this, and we've been fortunate enough to receive a permit, I guess 9 times. Tonight might be number 10 if we're lucky. Harry first came up on his skateboard and made a couple of presentations, but tonight he drove in. He has a car. He's had a car for a couple of years. This application is very well known to the board, residential C7 cars. It's sort of an overflow situation during the peak summer time when the lot across the street fills up. There's no signage. I believe we're 9 to 7:30 at night. We're not asking for any changes to anything that's been approved in the past, just hopefully asking to be able to do it again. Not aware of any problems, concerns, problems with neighbors. Don't think we're causing any problems. So Harry is here to answer any questions that you might have.
Just for
Okay.
the record, I've not received any complaints.
Anybody have a question for Harry?
No, same as last year.
What kind of car do you have?
I have a 2013 Cadillac.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Parking business is going well then.
Dad helped me a little bit.
How was business last year?
Not too bad. It was fairly rainy last summer, which wasn't great for me because there's no sun, there's no money. But other than that, it wasn't too bad.
Good to hear.
okay. Anyone in the public want to ask a question regarding this? Okay, if there's no further questions, I think the board probably has enough information.
I will move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion to approve?
I will move to approve with the same findings and
I apologize. Chairman Foreman, you did not designate one of the alternates as sitting members. Could you do that, please?
Sure. Let's have Robert.
I will move that we approve application 3218 with the same findings and conditions made in special permit number 1617.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're all set for another season.
Good luck.
Okay.
Sunny.
Sorry about not designating, but I guess we did it in the nick of time. So our next hearing then is 033-18 Mancini, 39 North Hill Road, North Falmouth. Special permit to construct an additional 3-bay garage attached to an existing structure. And let's have Jerry sit on this one since Robert's out.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that David J. and Elizabeth E. Massini of North Falmouth, Mass.
Massini.
Did I pronounce it?
Massini.
Massini, that's what I said.
Oh, no, okay.
What did I say?
You said McKinney.
No, I said Massini.
Oh,
North Falmouth, it's probably because I was hesitant. Anyways, of North Falmouth, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-23G1 of the Code of Falmouth to construct a 3-bay garage on subject property known as 39 North Hill Drive, North Falmouth, Mass. For referrals. Concom, no comment. Health, no comment. Engineering had the standard comment, plus we recommend adding dry wells, rain garden, or other stormwater measure for the roof. Fire department had no comment. Water, will need application for water service if running water to building. Assessors had no comment. Planning had no comment. Amy Lowell submitted, the wastewater superintendent submitted a comment that there was no sewer there, and there was a clarification from the applicant's representative that there is no plan to run water to that new garage at this time. And that's it.
Okay,
Good evening.
yep, and you are?
I am Jeff Bright, owner and operator of Synergy Home Improvements, requesting special permit.
And is there anything you want to tell us about this particular project?
Upon preliminary design of the structure, it seemed that lot coverage was conforming, garage bay displacement was conforming, so it was basically just a matter of the third bay.
And there's no setback issues?
No setbacks, it's also conforming.
So in all ways, this conforms except for that it's a special permit to get 3 bays and more than, 900 square feet? What's the height of the addition?
I believe it's 19 and a half feet.
Okay. All right, does the board have any additional questions? for
No
Mr.
questions.
No questions.
I-
Looks like they've already started work up there, right?
I'm sorry?
Looks like they've already started work on this project?
So, yeah, the owners, David and Elizabeth Massini, they wanted to upgrade their septic. So they had gotten that permitted already and had started doing that and cut down some trees in that area, which they were intent on doing anyway, along with a permit application for a swimming pool. So, yes, there has been some work there, yes.
What's the purpose of having 3 bays?
I'm not sure if their specific reason, other than the fact that he and his wife, and they have, almost adult children, high school students who also drive. To me, there's plenty of room in the driveway, but, I suspect that's their reason behind that.
The plan says unconditioned space. What does that mean?
It means that that building is not within the thermal envelope of the,
So it's neither heated nor cooled?
correct.
Okay, so can I just jump in?
Yep.
So they're eliminating the existing garage?
Correct,
Okay, and they're turning that into habitable space?
correct.
Okay, and then adding this 3-car garage, I see it's dormered? Is that just for style purposes?
Correct.
Okay, so no intention to add a second
On the
floor
new
into
garage
that?
building?
Right.
None,
Okay.
no.
And there's no connection from, well, I suppose, is that a second story on the, where the existing garage is now that's proposed?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a you can see in the drawings, the nature of the building. The upper level above ceiling joist is designed for storage.
Storage,
yes.
okay. And then no access from that to the garage then, that storage area to the garage?
Not directly, no.
Will it be built on slab concrete?
I'm sorry?
Will the addition be built on a slab?
Yes, we'll have a perimeter wall, but yes.
So no basement
Slab on
proposed?
grade, correct, no basement.
Okay. Anything else?
No, and I just want to confirm, so the lot coverage is 7.6 going to 12.7?
I think it's 12, the other way around, but yes.
7.6 to 12.6, it says, on the plan.
No, for structures, sorry, I was just
I
trying to do
apologize.
it.
Structures is
You were
12,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
12.7, and then
Yeah.
total is
I'm sorry.
12.6 to 17%.
Yes, 7.4, yeah, going to 12.7, yes.
Yeah, you're right. So well below the 20%.
It's a large lot, yes.
Okay? Is that it for the board at this time?
One more.
I have a question.
Okay.
When are they adding the pool?
It was supposed to be a couple years away, but I'm not exactly sure. They're doing that one on their own.
Again, I'll tell you, I think we discussed this briefly, you have 2 front yards.
Okay,
So the only place, because the septic's at the rear of the house, so it looks like the pool's going to be moved over towards that side road. You need
Correct.
to get that designated as a side yard.
oh, okay,
And North Hill is the front road, and you have to do that through the building commissioner.
okay. Yeah,
That's the only way they can get that
I see.
pool in that, otherwise they're a variance for a front yard.
Okay, so the part of the yard facing Heather Lane is also considered...
It's a front yard as well.
Even behind the house from the other front yard? Okay.
Well, if you
Doesn't
set
matter
it
what your
back-
address
But it's a
is.
setback of
If you
still
set it
25
back
feet,
far.
yes.
Right, but the pool, according to where the septic system is existing, to build out the pool, it's going to edge beyond that house.
And you probably have.
So
can't
then
get
it
too
would
close
be
to
an
the
accessory in a front yard, and it has to be 50 feet away. That won't make it.
I see.
So just for a heads up that you might want to tell
Thank you.
your clients.
You might want to tell them also to put the number 39 in the house.
I'm sorry?
Couldn't find the number 39 on the house.
Oh, you mean the actual address
Address.
numbers that should be on the door?
Yeah,
Yeah,
on the
that's a
house.
big one.
Or on the front
Yes.
facade somewhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Not to be a nitpicker, but, you know.
Well, it's important.
It's your job to be.
I'm surprised
Fire
engineering didn't catch
Is it
that.
not?
Jessica, isn't that a requirement?
It is, it absolutely is. That's a code violation, absolutely.
911,
Yeah.
You
fire
have to
Okay,
have emergency.
so let's see if, I think,
I've-
has the board spoken?
I have one more question.
Okay, because I was going to go to the public next, so I've forgotten.
Can
I know
you-
you're out there for some purpose.
Can you address the engineer division's concerned about dry wells being proposed?
Yes, upon receiving that information, it's perfectly reasonable, and we're perfectly capable of installing dry wells along the back side of the building, which I guess would be the west elevation, spaced at 10 feet, which would make 4 or perhaps 5 units.
Thank you.
I can
Okay.
provide them in final building plan drawings.
Okay, so ma'am, if you'd like to speak, please go up.
On the
You need to go to the podium and state your name and
Speak to the board.
speak to the board and through the microphone, so that,
I'm Lorraine Piscopo. I live at 65 Heather Lane. My house faces the rear or whatever Mancini's house is, and this has been going on for quite a long time. Nothing seems to get done. How long is this going to take?
Through the board, please.
How long is this going to take?
okay?
I've been looking at a steam shovel, and, well, it's gone now, but that was there for like 2 months. They took down every single tree. I just look out my window and see a swamp. And I'm
Let's see if we-
concerned.
let's-
In all fairness, the applicant didn't realize they had to come to the Board of Appeals to construct this garage.
Are you kidding? They didn't realize that?
A lot of people don't.
Okay.
Were you aware of the bylaw? It
I would assume
requires-
that anything he did, I just had a new septic system put in, and I got my permit, I got all my papers, they did it in a day and a half.
That's
I had no
different,
problem.
in all due respect.
I know, I'm sorry if I sound contentious, but I am contentious, because I feel it's affecting my property by looking at this. If I want to put my house up for sale, I'm going to have a problem. The swimming pool, that sends me over the edge. I'm not quite sure if there are piles of dirt and piles of gravel
All right,
sitting.
well, let's ask the applicant to address your concerns.
Okay,
and-
I am
and
concerned.
See what they say.
Can I-
And including, yeah, let's get an answer to her question.
I'm the only one here from my neighborhood, I'm very surprised.
That's fine. So if you could sit back down, then we can get him to, just see what he says.
Yes, so what this lady is speaking on, I'm aware of her property. The tree removal and so forth that she's discussing, that was a project component that has nothing to do with me. He hired a tree removal professional to do that. I have nothing on the back half of that property line facing our house.
Is there any thought about any screening of any kind?
I'm sorry?
Is there any?
I believe he wants to install a fence there, but again, that's not through me. I'm applying for this permit to construct that building and everything to the abutters away on the other side of where her property is.
Okay.
I didn't hire anybody to
And
cut down trees over there,
So what's the timetable,
as far as,
finishing the work? If you get the permit, how long will it take for you to
oh, I
complete the
see.
construction?
Well, I mean, as far as the garage building construction
Yes.
and the 10 feet around it, I would say 5 to 6 months.
Okay.
From start to finish, I would say, to be, reasonable. I mean, I think we can do it faster, but something like that. But as far as, the tree removal and so forth, that's something.
Again, through
you
the
have to-
board, through
you
the
have-
board, through
I'm
the
sorry?
board, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Through the board.
You-
We're the ones that need to give you the permit.
Sure, I understand. The lady's concerns for that reason, for the removal of trees and so forth in the backyard, overall, is just as equally ought to be brought to Mr. Mancini's attention, as that is not part of my,
Right. But it might be a consideration for the board in granting the permit.
sure.
It's whether adequate screening exists to construct this garage, so
Garage is on the other side. The garage is on the other side.
Can I like to ask
Yeah,
a question.
yes, but let's make sure that you're done. Okay, so you think 5 to 6 months at the, okay, so that's the answer for now. Kim, go
I would
ahead.
like to ask, ma'am, if you could just stand again, thank you. I just have a couple of questions based on what you said. So your property is to the south on Heather Lane, is that correct?
Yes, on the corner.
Okay. Is it across the street from?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And do you have any comment or issue with what they're proposing to do with the garage, or is it just the condition of the property?
Actually, the garage is not visible from where I am, which is fine. I don't from what I understand, he's adding one garage to the 2 garages that are there.
No.
He's taking down the 2 and adding 3.
He's converting the 2 into habitable space, they will no longer be garages, they'll be interior space for his house, and he's adding the 3-car garage.
Where are the 3-car garages going?
She didn't come in and review the file. I haven't seen her in it.
It's on the west side of the house, so it is away.
On the other side of the garage.
It's on the other side, okay. I don't have any issue, this gentleman is doing his work. My issue is with if there is a swimming pool, or eventually if he puts up a fence to hide the mud field, since he took out all the trees. It's a blight. To me, it's not adding to the neighborhood. It takes away from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's my issue.
But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to address that. So the project that's before us has been presented is the garage, which you
Right.
say that you don't have any objection to that. That's what's before us. That's what we
Right.
can approve.
So my issue would be an entirely different one if he applies for a swimming pool.
If he needs relief, you could come before this board. He may not need zoning relief.
Right.
Which means he would just obtain a building permit. Certainly, people are entitled to take down their trees.
Oh, of course, yes.
So, but the project that's before us is not, yeah,
Okay.
I don't.
I understand.
Yeah. So I think we certainly hear what you're saying. So we might have a comment.
Have
too.
you talked to the owners of the property to tell them your concerns on?
No, they never approached anyone. All I saw was this huge bulldozer, or whatever you want to call it, in his yard
No, but I mean,
for months.
since then, have you
No,
tried to
he's not
communicate?
approached me, I have not approached him.
Okay, you might want to have a conversation with them and let them know how affected you are by what's going on over there.
Yes, that's possible, but I felt that he should have maybe rang my doorbell and said he was going to do this and how long it was going to take. It's a personal matter. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not used to doing all of this or complaining. I'm not the type. But it's just been taking so long. That's my problem, is the issue with time.
Well, it might be helpful, because he may not know how you feel.
All right,
so
I'll
I think
accept that.
might
And
be
as I
helpful.
said, I understand it's his right, it's his property, but it's just a very...
I'm sure from his point of view, he'd like to get the project done so he could
Oh, I'm
use the
sure.
property. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's making it take such a long time, but that is not really a zoning issue.
Right. Thank you for your time, but
Yeah,
I understand.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we've gotten a picture here of what's going on that site. It sounds to me like it's approvable, but does the board feel like they have enough information?
Yeah, I do.
Think we do?
Yeah.
Okay. Happy to have a motion to close.
I'll move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then I would be happy to have a motion to approve the project.
I will move that we approve application 3318.
Second.
Okay, and findings.
I think it increases the utilization of the property for the applicant. It complies with all dimensional setbacks
And lot coverage.
and lot coverage.
Apparently they need 3-car garage.
Yeah.
It's not more detrimental, though.
Well, it's not under 240-3, Jerry, so it's under 240-23G. So I'll make the finding on that, that it's in compliance and it's appropriately before this board.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think they've made an effort to make it architecturally blend in.
Yes, yeah.
They have these,
And it's modest, and 19 feet is relatively
Yes.
modest in height. Do we want to say that there was neighbor comment that there was no objection to the structure of the garage?
That's up to the board, if you'd like to put that
We
in,
don't
if she had
have to.
concerns about the grounds
I mean,
itself,
there were
but no
concerns.
objection to
That might
them.
be a nice way to put it,
I think the
concerns about.
concerns were probably better.
The
concerns
state-
about the timetable for construction and the condition of the property overall, but no objection to the garage itself.
Status of excavation.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know, the weather hasn't been great, so it might not have been so easy to do a lot of outside contracting.
So, yeah.
So 24216 as
Yeah.
well, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then conditions?
As per
Per
plan.
plan. No habitable space in the garage.
Storage only above?
Sure.
I think another finding is it's not heated, it's not cooled.
Yes, absolutely. What's the
No
Was
heat,
there
no
a requirement,
plumbing?
no parking
Unconditioned.
over the garage, or
Start
septic
using
tank?
that. Unconditional.
Okay.
Was there a concern that no parking over the septic tank? Did I-
No, that was on the last.
Oh, okay, all right.
And that has an H20 cover.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Okay, anything else? All right.
good to me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay, so that concludes,
So Jeffrey, I'll contact you when I have the draft done. You'll receive a copy of it. Be up to you to file it with the registry and tell your client about that road to get it designated in front and side.
Will do. Thank you, really appreciate it. Thank you.
And have him put the number on the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Got some painting inside to do. I'm gonna bring that for you in that time.
so that concludes 033-18, and the open public hearings for tonight. We go back into open meeting. I think we had two more items.
Yep.
The minutes and the report from Robert on the accessory apartment bylaw.
The minutes I just received today, so I don't even think I forwarded them to you yet.
Okay, so we'll just table those.
Ashley and I made a couple changes, and I'll send them out to you, and we'll do it at June 7th, if that's okay with the board.
Fine.
Sounds good.
All right, so that brings us to Robert, and how are things going in?
Well, so we just had our fourth meeting,
Turning mine off.
and they've kind of to a consensus with the health department on different things they can do with the septic systems to make it easier to add the accessory apartments on the type of system that's going to be used, tight tanks, Zabel filters, so that's something that health is working on. Virginia Valiela brought up from Water Management about updating the coastal ponds map for the missing watersheds. And Tom Bott, the town planner, did speak with the Cape Cod Commission. They do have an updated map, and they're going to go forward to accept the new map, so that will take in some of the watersheds.
Excellent.
And it'll be a separate article at the next
Will
town
be a
meeting.
separate article at the town meeting. Regarding some of the revisions to the bylaw itself, there's been a lot of discussion over what the definition of owner is. So the consensus at this time is that they do a revision that says that the property is a primary residence of the owner, so that they would have to be on site for the portion of the year. It's easily checked with the assessor's department because they can check on secondary homes versus primary homes, so just gives us a little more standard to check
What's
on
the
the...
definition of a secondary home versus a primary home?
Well, when they do the primary and secondary, as far as the tax department goes, in a secondary, you are actually paid an additional tax for contents. You have to, so if you have more than one property, you have to designate. But it's an easy basis to check with the
Sure.
town, because that's our biggest issue with checking with some of them.
And that's where you really probably file income taxes too, as your primary
Yeah,
residence.
as your primary residence.
And vote.
That's what I was gonna say, vote,
Right,
yeah.
right.
The only one unit could be rented at a time. In the rental period, they want to do no less than 6 months for a rental period. There was some talk at one point that either unit could be a primary residence of either the tenant or the homeowner, but we...
Wasn't that the
kept
original way it was written?
Yes, it's always been, it's up to the owner to decide if they want, just like the Mezzers, they're going to live in the accessory
Right.
and give the other house, so it's
So
always
you're saying
been,
they're going to get rid of that?
And make it primary, that the property itself has to be a primary residence for the owner of the
But you
property.
could live in the apartment if
Right.
you wanted.
You could live in either unit.
Okay.
But they were actually discussing that in certain situations, you could have where just the tenant that you're renting to, it could be their primary residence and not the owner of the property.
But you can't rent it separately then?
And can't rent it separately, but the issue is they don't want a situation with absentee landlords, especially if they have
Yeah,
complaints, if
yeah,
complaints come
I
in.
agree, okay. So we're good with, that sounds good.
We're good with that. On the square footage, so they're going to leave it at the 40% for size with a max cap of 800 square feet. There has been a lot of discussion of how you figure out the actual square footage of the main home, when you're figuring out what the size of the accessory will be. So the consensus right now between some of the representatives of the planning board and also the building department is they're suggesting that you go with outside dimensions of the foundation. So if it's a ranch, you just take the outside dimensions. If it's a two-story home, you multiply it by 2. And if there's finished area in the basement, it would have to go by what the actual building code is, whether that's habitable space or not. It would still have the cap of 800 square feet, so they can't go over the 800 square feet.
So basically, they're taking an 800 square foot, we had approved previously as a 750 square foot
Right.
accessory apartment. That was always measured from the inside.
From the
That
inside.
worksheet that was approved by everybody.
It was baseboard to baseboard, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Living space, actually.
Yeah.
So now, this 800 square foot's actually only going to have possibly 650,
So it
700
actually will make it
square
smaller.
foot. We're
Doesn't
making
that
a smaller unit.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes.
It does, yeah.
But these are all the things that are coming up because,
There's little subtleties, yeah.
But what would be driving it to make it outside dimension rather than the livable
So the
space?
issue they were getting into is planning board was figuring a different way of the actual living space dimensions versus zoning board. So they were looking at different
Let's make it
calculations.
uniform.
They're trying to come up with a unified calculation, and actually
is
the
living space or
yeah,
gross floor
and the
area.
building commissioner had suggested the outside dimensions.
Well, it might be less ambiguous because, if they get into an issue of what's living space.
Sari, you had made some comments.
It's-
Well, everything throughout the bylaw is based on habitable space, gross floor area, or living space. So they're going to have to change other things as well. I mean, this again is going to convolute the
So
whole
it's causing some more
bylaws.
inconsistencies.
Right. So what's it going to be for, everything? And I think they base that because of the lot coverage. Well, lot coverage is a totally different issue than an accessory apartment. I mean,
So what would you
we're not
recommend?
making it easier, we're making it harder.
Has the working group been made aware of those inconsistencies?
They've been made aware of it, but you've got to realize there's people from all different boards, so they're all having, input, and what it's going to come down to at some point is the working group will come up with some kind of a draft of what the consensus on the changes are. That'll go to the planning board. Planning board then has the decision whether they even want to incorporate those changes, go along with them, or do their own.
They've basically said it's their decision.
It's their decision, they're going to do the bylaw, so
But it's town meeting's decision whether to.
whether it's accepted. So the working group's trying to get a framework together that's, can be submitted to the planning board, and they can use that as a,
They also want to change it to where the planning board's the special permit granting authority and not the ZBA.
yeah,
Because they feel the ZBA changes everything. I sat with one of the board members who told me
What do we change?
point blank that they agreed that it needed to stay with the ZBA, but at that meeting, that same person said it should go to the planning board. So there's just so much, difference of opinion, and I spoke with one board member and asked, are we going to have a joint meeting to discuss this?
Yes.
And they said, by all means. So we will see if that actually does happen.
But could-
So the big issue is, well, go ahead.
well, there's two, there's two issues that I think, as far as the ZBA would be concerned, I have input on. We did a lot of discussion on minimum lot sizes, and I know we had an issue with that because of density and parking.
Right.
We had gone back and forth with a minimum lot size between 7,200 and 10,000 square feet, which seemed to be a bit of a consensus until this last hearing.
Meeting.
The last meeting, I'm sorry, not a hearing, a meeting. And what the consensus was, what they would like to go is no minimum lot size, but change the parking requirements. so that if you're doing an accessory apartment, depending on the amount of cars that you need for that apartment, you would have to have them on site.
Again, the bylaw tells you how many parking spaces, 1.5 parking spaces per bedroom. So I guess we won't have to worry about that, because that will eliminate a
And that's
lot
what
of the
they're
areas we
saying.
had
Yeah,
concern with.
so if you had issues where it would fit, they would not be able to get the approval of the accessory. The other issue is the actual permitting. So they are trying to streamline the process for the
So hold on, let's
applicant.
back
Yeah,
up.
I want to, yeah.
Let's back
Go.
up. So let's say I have a 3-bedroom house, and I presume for that I have a 2-car garage, I can park 2 cars. And now I'm going to add a apartment with 1 more
Bedroom.
bedroom.
In the house or in the garage next to?
In the house.
Ooh, good point, because you could convert a garage.
Right.
The garage.
Was a parking
Well, what
space.
if I convert, so I could convert the existing, I could convert one of the existing bedrooms, right? Or I could add a 3rd bedroom, there's 2 options.
Or a 4th bedroom, yeah.
Or a 4th bedroom. If I just add 1 bedroom and it's 1.5, how do you deal with 1.5?
Well, that's what they're going to see with
You
this.
round it up to the even number?
But that brings up a good point, what Jerry
Could,
just said.
but
What
it's
if
a
you
permit. What
convert the garage into an apartment? You're eliminating 2 or 1 parking spaces.
Right, well, and then do the
creating a
parking
need for
spaces
more.
need to be housed in a garage, or can they just be outside
I
the
just wonder,
driveway?
well, I believe, Bob, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to have to be created on the lot.
On the lot itself, and that's why they're saying that in some cases, not going with the minimum lot size, the accessory would still be eliminated because they could not fit the vehicles on the lot once they.
Or
had the
people are
plans.
going to get rid of their lawns and create parking lots in their front yard on small parcels.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if there's a way to finagle them in, that's what that's allowing.
It'll look like downtown
Jeez.
Boston.
I would like, why are they concerned? The 2 things have similar effects, but I think Kim's right. One ensures that they don't pave over their entire, because
Or
we
gravel or
never see houses, we almost never see structures, paving, and parking approaching the limit on a typical
But
residential
a
site.
lot of these are in the very small areas of town.
Right.
However, I just lost my train of thought, thank you very much.
It almost appears they want to make it more difficult rather than make it easier for people to understand the process, which I understood there was
Right,
some.
the whole thing is, the intent of this bylaw has gone out the window. Now it's become a pretty,
Political? I'm sorry.
actually, that might not be a bad word. It is. And a few of us got upset and questioned why there's so many special interest groups sitting at this committee and things. It's just, it's gone beyond what the intent was, and the discretion of what that bylaw is changed. You look at our old bylaw, we required screening of parking areas for accessory apartments. That has totally gone out of this new bylaw. And it hasn't even been addressed in this committee, if I'm correct.
No.
There's been no discussion. And that was important, so that the neighborhood didn't see all these extra cars or
And we
Whatever.
encouraged affordability. It wasn't, not many people took us up on it, but it was part of the overall intent. And I think it's kind of telling that we've had a couple of cases come before us under the new bylaw that have gotten rid of the affordability requirement. So
Right.
it hasn't really worked, the big pitch was, this is going to make so much more affordable housing. And it's
Well,
actually-
workforce housing is what they're calling it, because the affordable component's
I
gone.
understand. I
And the
understand.
price of the unit will be dictated by the location and the size.
Now, the chairman keeps on, when I see him, I mention, he keeps on saying, there's no need to change, his opinion, no need to change it because they're going through. He said there's been 10 approvals. I don't know, his view is that it's hugely successful. I don't know how many have come in before us, but I can't see that we've approved 10 of them.
Well, I will tell you, I've watched the planning board meetings when they've discussed this. Their intent is to change it. It's very clear, and including the chairman's.
But do we think?
No, but in terms of actual cases.
Yeah, has the bylaw change been successful?
Well, it's allowed people to have a detached accessory structure. You
But
know,
how
we
many have
didn't.
gone through?
Yeah, and some of them that I think they've had, what, 3 or 4? They haven't had 10.
I
They've
just
had 3
passing on
They've had
that
3 or 4.
Chairman is adamant that this has been very, very
But
successful.
that was actually my concern
And
personally, was
I
that,
think the increase in the size is very helpful in the fact that it's detached. They've had 3 detached,
Yeah.
just like we have.
but, you know, so adding in the detached, I mean, kind of, to me, gets around the issue of a single-family lot having one structure, one house. So now suddenly you're opening up huge number of lots to being, I mean, maybe they're not duplexes in the sense that they're equal, but ones can have 40%, be 40% of the total. That's not that far from 50%. So I just, you know, to me, it's sort of circumvents the.
Well, I think there are different components in the old bylaw that need to be brought forward in the new bylaw to protect your neighborhood, to protect,
Right.
you know, any impacts. It'll greatly help. And I really believe in the size. There needs to be a limit in the size.
Of the lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Should
would
we-
agree.
And I believe the ZBA needs to do the special permitting. And is there a site plan review and design build required if it comes to the ZBA for a special permit? Because if anybody's watched us, they know that we take all of that into consideration. You know, when they add on, that's going to marry into the existing home, so it doesn't look any different than a single-family dwelling. We asked for screening of the parking. That was in the old bylaw. You know, for them to
Well, I
sit
think
there
that
and
the
say
parking-
that we changed things, that's totally incorrect. We can't change the bylaws. We have to adhere to them, and if you go down A through E, or 1 through 8 in that old bylaw, this board did it, and we documented it. And just like with the detached that we've had, where there was a question of a basement, we deed restricted that to where it can't be made habitable space, it can't be finished. So I believe the ZBA knows what they're doing.
Do the other?
And
board-
I'm offended that they think we don't know what we're
Do
doing.
the other board members, you know, I know Bob has probably articulated it, but do we need to, should we put it in writing, so it's a matter of record, some of our concerns?
Well, I'm hoping for a joint meeting, but certainly if you have any comments on what
Or
Bob
questions, yeah,
Marie
or-
Well, I
suggested.
share some of the concerns
Yeah.
that was raised here, how you calculate this
Send them,
space.
any comments you should send to me and I can
Because
forward.
they're going to want to know what the board's opinion is, because that's, especially at the last meeting, because there's one other issue that came up, and it's regarding the actual special permit. They would like to do all the special permits for apartments, including accessory structures, directly through the planning board, giving them the special permitting authority for apartments.
Yeah, so what's their justification for that? Is
The
that
just-
we don't adhere to?
Well, their justification is they're trying to streamline the process for an applicant, and since they're already design review,
Which there wasn't before.
design review, and they're doing the regular accessories except for the accessory buildings, that it would help the applicant cost-wise if they had,
Yeah, so what's funny about that, sorry, I'm just gonna jump in, is that previously, it was a streamlined process, it was all before the zoning board of appeals. When this was previously discussed, we said, keep it a streamlined process, we can keep it before us, and they wanted to create, I mean, it really honestly didn't make any sense that they were saying they wanted to streamline the process, and then you're creating a two-step process.
Changing the tax law.
And now they have to go, and I think Jerry's point is great, that if you set a minimum lot size, you know whether or not you qualify, at least as a preliminary matter, okay, my lot's big enough or not. If you don't do that and you're saying, oh, how many cars can I fit in here? What can I squeeze? Maybe I'll go and see if I can squeeze it in, and I mean, it's like, it's not a standard. I mean, really, there should be a clear standard, and then maybe there wouldn't be this issue, or perceived issue, in the boards applying it differently, or, you know, it's,
If we
you know,
lost,
if there was a
I don't think
clear
we've turned any
standard.
down, have we?
No, at the first meeting of this that I went to, I haven't been able to go to them all because I've had conflicting, I said that if it's attached, the building department can see if it's married into the Do you need design review? I don't think so.
Makes
If
sense.
it's the special permit, we do all that, and we've done it for, 14 years I've been here, and even before that.
We've got some nice
So-
examples you can take a picture of.
And we know what we're doing, yeah, exactly.
But it seems.
So I just don't understand this two-step process. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
But doesn't it
And
also
it's nothing
seem?
against the planning board, you know,
Well,
but also,
I
they
explained to
devised
them,
it,
you know,
so
we
it's
we
kind
go
of a
through their
conflict.
referrals. They send a referral, they do a site plan review. We look into that, take it into context.
But I guess I go back on, minimum lot size. I was more concerned how they discuss the floor area. That seems to be, the consensus was, of course you should do it that way, and listening to Sheree, which I'm assuming is correct, is that's not how we've been doing it. You measure
No.
the livable space.
No, right.
That's, I mean, I don't know if that was just people being rolled over slowly because they don't understand it. I mean, to me, that's,
Well, not only that,
If
when
you-
you take a footprint, not all of that's habitable space.
Right.
no, I agree. That's why I
So,
like the
it
idea of the
doesn't make
inside. I
sense.
don't know what's so
And they al-
complicated.
And they also said last night that we can check with the assessors. And I
no.
immediately said, you can't check with the assessors. The assessors is for taxation purposes. It's not always correct information. A lot of it is an
Yep.
approximation. Things have changed that aren't on there. They don't go and inspect, so I know the Board of Health uses them for the number of bedrooms, but they take the information off other sheets. They don't always go into these properties every, 3 years, I think it is? I know nobody's been to ours. Nobody was ever at my 91 Old Meeting House for a long time. There was an extra room on the back that they didn't get. So it's not it's for taxation purposes, and no regulatory board should use their information in
Right, so-
any
so
application.
let's tick these off, so that's one of the objections. We can't use the assessors is not a reliable source.
No, And they've agreed to that, they
I can
understand.
vouch for that.
We believe there ought to be a minimum lot size.
We want to go with
You write
habitable
this down,
space.
Bob? You want me to?
No, I assumed already the minimum lot
Okay.
size.
A habitable
That's
space.
the assumption. I
Should
do,
be-
Do we have a number?
I would say 7,500. Do you know that
I mean,
the
if you-
two
if we're looking
lowest
at the-
numbers in the bylaw for buildable lots is 7,200 and 7,500? And that's under 240-66C, when you're trying to prove buildability of a lot.
What about the habitable space versus the exterior perimeter?
the planning board representative actually came through with 4 or 5 different calculations of how they could do living space. The building commissioner has suggested we use outside dimensions.
Right, but I think Ceree's
seems-
point, and maybe this is a point that got missed, and I don't know, I wasn't there, is that this is one section or one article of the zoning bylaw. So it should be consistent with the zoning bylaw. And obviously Ceree knows this bylaw way better than I do. If there's certain means of calculating different things in the bylaw, those should be consistent. Because obviously the building world, building code, there's all different things that come into play. So to bring something
Parking is
new in.
Parking is gross floor area. Other places it mentions living space.
I just think it has to be consistent. This shouldn't be looked at in a vacuum. And I think that might have
And this
been
is-
the issue
this is-
previously, and it sounds like it's an issue.
This is
again.
exactly why we needed the definitions updated. Now, we're not
Right.
getting that on the first round of the bylaw review, which is what we really wanted.
Yeah, I thought that was
because
their priority.
there's- Yeah, well,
Habitable space is not in here.
no. Neither's living space. Gross floor area, I believe, is. But anyway, so those are some of the issues. What
Could
else?
I bring up another issue that it's somewhat related to us, but the chairman says it's up to the Board of Health. The fact that one person is adding one bedroom seems ridiculous to say the Board of Health must require nutrient removal, advanced nutrient removal system.
They're not saying that, Jerry. As a matter of fact, the Board of Health agent is disagreeing with them.
But the bylaw says it.
Well, the bylaw, that's what we're trying to get.
If you're
It's one
in
of
a
the
coastal
components we're
pond
trying to get
overlay.
changed.
Yeah, but if the approved CWMP does not have any limits, no one knows what the proper limit should be for that septic tank. It could be 19, maybe it's 5, or maybe it's 10. I mean, it's...
39.
Say again? Well, no, an advanced nutrient management system, I think, probably means 19.
Not always,
No,
not
I
always,
think
it's
they're
not
coming
guaranteed.
down.
It can be higher, I meant. It could be 15, 10, that's what I meant. 19 is going to cost people money. That's what I meant.
And that was at the very end of the meeting. We didn't get to go into that, but that is a contentious issue between the health agent.
Well, I'd like to see someone, you know, what does the Board of Health, when they read this, think that advanced nutrient system means? Does it mean 19 or stricter, or could they just say it doesn't need it because there's no water quality limit?
Well, I think the fact is that the systems don't always, your D-night systems, depending on how often they're used, whatever, they anticipate no more than 19. But it's not regulated. It can go up to 30, or it could go down to 5.
I think
which-
eventually
which
they're
is
going
what
to be
you want.
monitored and regulated. I agree with you.
Yeah.
A system
So,
for 19 is at 30.
They don't always remove the nitrogen as
But it's important that we're not against the advanced
DEP tries to
nitrogen.
tell them it should be held at 19, but it's not.
But this implies an unnecessary requirement until
Right.
the water quality, until the approved CWMP comes out and says, every house in this watershed needs to meet a minimum performance standard.
Well, those 19, or those 15 impaired estuaries.
Yeah.
All, I mean, they're largely part of MEP processes, and those MEP processes dictate how much nutrient reduction is required.
You're not gonna find a number in them that says, this is universal for the watershed. I will agree if you say the lower part of the watershed
It
may be
says-
more stricter than the upper
It
part.
says you gotta get rid of 80% of the load.
That is not a requirement yet. It's a recommendation. The town meeting has to approve a CWMP with specific nutrient limits for that watershed,
Well,
or a combination of
Does
limits and
DEP
sewers.
don't
not
have that.
consider those guidelines pretty
I'm-
stringently?
They want the towns to develop how they're gonna implement it. They don't
have
say
to.
that it all has to be one set of standards.
And an issue with the health agent was the situation where if you require that for the accessory apartments, the D-nights, you'd have to do it for the whole area. You know,
Well,
why would somebody with a single-family home not need to do one, but you would need to put one in if you have the...
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. If it's consistent that the whole area needs it, whatever that area is defined as, then by all means.
Well,
And
I
we
think-
don't have that yet.
I think that would be a better approach, I certainly agree. When you upgrade
Right.
or when you build new,
Or when the CWMP gets approved for that neighborhood? So that's going to be
but I
discussed?
think the argument behind the accessory apartment, mandating it for that, is that you are increasing occupancy.
Are you? I thought you couldn't go above 4.
No. You can have no more than 4 boarders, is that what you're saying?
I thought more
Or
than
4
4
bedrooms
bedrooms.
only in a sewer district.
You're
But
increasing
Well, if you're putting in 6 or 7, I
because-
sort of
Again-
agree with you there.
Because
Again, it's going to
you've got-
depend on the lot size.
I mean, you're increasing
outside of it.
occupancy because you have a couple living there, and now they're gonna get a tenant, so they're adding a person.
Yeah, but that's not, come on, you know the math better than I do.
Well, if
That's
you
a-
do that to 1,000 units, you've added 1,000.
Well, we can speculate. I'd like to see closure on what we mean by advanced nutrient system, not, specific for all these.
Well, I don't
neighborhoods.
think this bylaw is going to cure that, Jerry.
Well, the language in there is going to make it impossible.
Well, the language already is impossible in that
Okay,
bylaw.
all right. You haven't discussed that yet, right? And we can't attend because these are closed open
They
meetings.
are open meetings for observers, that
No
now
comments.
it's been clear. You
I
can't
thought
make
that might
comments,
have
but if
to
you're
come
invited,
around.
if they have a question and someone's in the room and they need an answer, they are now allowed to ask.
That was clarified by the town manager.
Clarified after
I
our
would
last
think, I
meeting.
was surprised when I heard that.
Okay, so, Robert, is there,
But just one last, so what's the board's overall feeling on the changing the special permitting authority only through the planning board?
well, I think it's silly.
We have to give them some facts why it's a bad idea.
I think.
Pros and cons, I
I
should
think
say.
on all of this that you've discussed, if the board members could just send comments
Okay.
to me, I'll develop a sheet that you've all listed, forward it to Bob so he can report. When's the next meeting?
The next meeting is going to be on
June 6th.
June 6th,
So
And
the other thing we talked
What time?
a little bit about was having
5:30.
a letter that, for the public, that talks about the actual status of accessory apartments. Because I
Yes, that
don't
was-
think
yeah.
people realize,
And I haven't done that yet.
how many there are, how many there were under the old bylaw, how many of those were provided affordability, et cetera. And,
I would-
because, and there's this sense out there that there, nobody ever had, accessory apartments, which isn't true.
Do you think it's better to do a letter like that now, while the discussion is ongoing?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and not to letter to
And-
the editor, we need a letter to them.
Well,
Well,
it could
well,
be
we
both.
suggested sending it to them out of courtesy before it becomes.
Yes,
I think
okay,
It could be
that's-
both, and I think it could go to the,
Because there's some things that just never, ever get said,
I
and
mean,
there's,
what we want to say essentially, I think, is there's been a lot of concern about having accessory apartments to provide workforce and affordable housing in the town, and people don't really appreciate that, we had a bylaw in place, we had however many it is, 280 or whatever the number is, approved apartments through this bylaw. The bylaw was structured in such a way that it actually allowed for, housing that could count towards the affordable housing inventory.
it never
If-
did.
i-
no.
If you got a monitoring agent, did it not?
But it's cost prohibitive for these homeowners to
I'm
do
not saying
that.
anyone ever did it.
No.
I'm
No,
saying
no,
that the
no, no.
bylaw, the way it was written,
think Tim
allowed
wants to
for
go.
that.
That change was done in 2010 to add a monitoring agent, which made it more burdensome. That's when people
Yes.
stopped coming to
I'm
get.
not, but.
So if all they have to do with the old bylaw, and I said this at the first meeting, is remove the affordable component, which is what they wanted to do, remove that monitoring, you've got accessory apartments, and then add the detached. There's no need for all this other, and we get through things very well. So, anyway, yeah,
Well,
there's
it-
nothing wrong with the old bylaw, except we want to get rid of the affordable component, which they did. It should be a by right, detached special permit. You add on something to your house, you're going to want it to fit in. Your neighborhood's going to want it to fit
Yeah.
in. And the building department can see that by the elevations submitted. If it's created within, it's already a done deal. So do you really need that level? That would be the streamline for created within or attached to.
I do want to add too, I think when this was proposed, or, I guess enacted, voted, approved at town meeting, there was no, there was obviously, dispute between the zoning board. Dispute might be an aggressive word. I do litigate.
No, I think of many people.
But I mean,
find it that
we
way.
were not, there were certain things that we would, as a board, I think, would have liked to see in the accessory apartment bylaw. We thought it was kind of incomplete, and now we run into a lot of issues. The only thing I think that the boards agreed upon was that it should not have this affordability component. That the size, the whole theory that this would be
And
kind
lot
of
size.
dictated by the market. And at town meeting last time, I think 45 minutes to an hour was spent by affordable housing advocates talking about why this should be affordable restricted. And so the whole conversation focused on something the boards and the municipal players didn't even dispute, was that it shouldn't have an affordability component. And I think a lot of what is contained in this bylaw kind of just got glossed over.
It did.
Well, plus you've got
Yeah.
you've got the assumption of the public when that went through, that this was going to be in money source, aging in place, in low cost
Yeah.
to add on to your homes. And then what they found out is to actually do the work to put these apartments in, and the cost that it's going to be, they are not going to be able to rent these at a lower rate.
Because
I
there's a
think they
lot in
also
the building
thought-
code, you just can't add on.
I think-
You have to change, it's costly to do your
In my-
firewalls
Well, I was
and
gonna
different
say
things like
firewall,
that
yeah.
for an
I've
existing.
also heard
dwelling.
that people have said, oh, this is only would be applicable to the sewer areas, like, I mean, I was surprised how many people thought that the accessory apartment would be
No,
a
it's town.
boondoggle or whatever, because in the sewer area it'd
Yeah.
be easier. I'd like to also bring up that maybe I don't know how we aggressively challenge, but be it politely, the fact that we are making it more difficult. You know, when you say we add things on, could we politely say, could you ask us where we have created, I mean, you can't legally.
Well, I
but-
think that's what the joint meeting, I think it's very, very important to have a joint meeting with the selectmen and the planning board on this.
All right, so let's decide.
Okay, that's a good point.
Let's decide that we're going to all send our suggestions, right, for...
Concerns and suggestions.
For some kind of a letter to Sari, correct?
Well, it's
Well,
crafted language.
I'm going to draft an editorial not an editorial, letter that I'll send to you guys. What we've asked here is for you guys to send your concerns about the bylaw, any suggestions you may have to me, and I'll send them to Bob.
Right,
then
but
I can go
also
over
some of
with
that
it
could go
in-
into your...
In a form,
Some of that could go into your letter.
correct. I see what you're saying, yes.
So, rather than you
The
just
sooner we get that
making
letter
it
done, the
up,
better.
we'll send you, so I think we should, within what, 1 week?
Yes.
Okay? And then,
Can you start working with the chairman, that we should have a joint meeting sooner rather than later?
I suggested it to the vice chairman, and that
Vice chairman of planning
person
board.
agreed wholeheartedly, so.
Of the planning board? Town manager hasn't agreed on behalf of the selectmen.
Well, we saw, where was it? We saw a joint meeting for July. We haven't been notified of it yet, so I will
With
query.
us?
Yes, I will query
Okay.
the selectmen on that, because it was with the selectmen, planning board, and ZBA, I believe, right?
And water quality, I think.
And water quality.
I do want to just make note, too, I did ask them specifically about, I know at town meeting, they wanted to extend the accessory buildings to GRI districts,
To what?
the
to
general...
general residence districts.
The-
And the, and the co-chairman of the planning board did say they have discussed it, and they will not be asking for any change.
Yeah,
Good.
because doesn't general residence already allow for duplexes and things like
It
that?
allows for 2 dwellings with a shared wall.
Right.
So then you would, and then 3 by right if one of them's affordable. So if you have that scenario, which we have a few of them, then you could still have an accessory apartment. That's where the question gets a little gray, and that's
Yeah.
with the, so I don't think they're ready to do that
Right.
yet. I think they want to look at that more.
Is there any
Make a motion
evidence
to
that these accessories are being rented as seasonal, at not affordable, at high rates?
Does it matter to us?
You know, when you
Well,
look
it
at,
matters to the rationale
Ken,
of the...
do you know what the 80% median income rental is for a one-bedroom?
1,200?
It's approximately 1,100. And that's
Per month.
based on,
Yeah.
Right, but in the summer, you could rent it for $1,100 per week.
well, let's just put it out there on the airwaves, shall we?
Airbnb, are you saying?
Just did.
Thank you for doing that.
Okay,
Thank
you.
does that cover our discussion with Robert?
Yes.
And you will get information to me? And I will do up a total thing from every member and send it to Bob and the rest of the board.
And could Bob let us know when the meeting's going
Okay,
to be?
it sounds to me like
There's only a
meeting
couple
should be
issues there.
adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay.